Check out this bike. 1989 Yamaha YZ 250. Got this thing for 900 bucks. So the seller stated that he bought this from the original owner. So this is a 2-owner bike, and as you can see, it's extremely clean. Original pipe on there. Tires look really good. Aftermarket silencer. Plastics look brand new. Looks to be in really good shape. So the seller stated in the ad that he was riding this thing one day and all of a sudden it shut down and it was really hard to start back up. He said he can pop start it, but it runs kind of crappy and smokes a ton. He doesn't know what's going on with it. He listed it for 12. I offered 9. He said come grab it. So I picked it up for 900 bucks. I drove 2 hours and 15 minutes each way. So it was a 4.5 hour trip to go get this thing. But I think it was worth it. It's a pretty clean bike. So today we're gonna be looking at this bike, trying to figure it out. Hopefully getting this to run and drive good by the end of the video. That's the goal. But it could have a very serious problem. We don't know until we start digging into it. Alright, little walk around here. Close up of the engine here. The seller thinks that this thing has never been rebuilt because it looks like the original gaskets are on there. It looks like it does not have the original carb, unfortunately. Looks like a cheap Amazon carb. Brakes work. I think those are new plastics on there. Not a bad looking bike. And then here's the VIN on the frame. So to see if it's 1989, you do 10 digits down and you end up with a K. And that lines up with 1989. So it is in fact a 1989 YZ250. Alright, let's give this thing a couple kicks, see what it sounds like. Alright, that's a no-go. There's definitely resistance kicking over the Kickstarter. Almost like it's binding up a little bit. So that's not good. Now that has me worried. The rod bearing's gone. It's hard to tell. It's kicking over smooth now. Well, we can try bump starting it. Maybe it'll fire up. Doing that little bump start did not sound good. Engine sounded a little rattly there, so let's start tearing into this thing, see what we find. Alright, got the bike in the garage. Let's start working on it. So let's check the oil first. 750 milliliters. Let's see what that looks like. Is it going to be milky? Alright. Looks like brand new oil. It's not milky at all. Check bolt for the oil level is right down here. It's right behind the brake here. Ugh. If I can get it out. Yeah, it's stripping out. We'll leave that for now. and we'll check it once we drain the engine oil. Coolant check here. Topped off. Cool. Looks like a newer seat cover on here. Yeah, seat cover's nice. Let's see if there's an air filter. Yeah, it looks pretty good. All oiled up. Nothing wrong with the air filter. So we're gonna check the gas flow. The seller stated that it was smoking a ton and that it was hard to start. So that could be a couple different problems. Maybe the gas flow was limited from the petcock, or the carburetor could be clogged up as well. Looks like it's gonna be pretty good. Turn it to on. Oh, it's filling up fast. Whoa. So extremely good gas flow. And it's mixed. So I don't see any water in the gas either. That all checks out, that looks good. Let's see if it's shifting through all the gears properly here. Neutral. First, yeah, feels good. Second, third, fourth, fifth. So shift's extremely smooth. No issue with the transmission, I don't believe. All right, get this gas tank off. Alright, coil's there. CDI is up there. That looks good. Everything is connected here. Let's see, except for the yellow wire. I believe that's for lights. Alright. So the main wire is this black and white one. That's the kill switch. And the one going to the coil, that looks like it's grounded out. That looks good. Wire there is on. That looks good. And all these are connected. So let's get this plug out of here. Looks like a newer plug too, BR8ES plug. Plug looks brand new. So I'm guessing the seller had problems starting this thing and decided to put a new plug in to see if that would help fix the problem. And it looks like it hasn't ran since then. Or it's running extremely lean, but that has zero color on it whatsoever. So I guess we'll see if it has spark here. Alright, good spark. Great spark. All right, watch while I turn this thing over. It's like, it feels like it gets like stuck. There's just like a tiny bit of resistance there. Like something's a little bit tight. It almost feels like the rod bearing to me. There's just like a little bit of drag there. Alright, let's see if we can get a compression reading. We have good spark. Let's see if we have compression. Because it should fire right up if we have good compression. And good spark. For a 250 dirt bike, you want about like 180, 170, right in that range. Let's see what we get. Throttle open. Kickstart hit my leg. Well, it's definitely low compression. We're like 100 PSI. Not good. So that's why it's not starting, and that's why it's hard to start. Wow, that's really low. It does not sound good kicking it over. I wonder if that piston's just really tight in the cylinder. Could have been running really lean and locked up at one point. That's not good. So there lies the problem. All right, so what we're gonna do is drain the transmission oil, see what that looks like, and we'll kind of go from there. That'll tell us if it's a clutch problem locking up or if it's in the top end, because the whole crankcase is separate from the transmission on a two-stroke. Unless the right-hand seal blows, then oil can get in there. All right, coming underneath the engine here, you can see the drain plug for the transmission oil is right there. That looks like a 12 millimeter. Well, it looks pretty good coming out. Not milky at all. So far, no chunks in there. Alright, so looking at the oil, I'm actually seeing quite a few metallic flakes in here, which is interesting because it seems like we have a top end problem. That would not show up in the transmission oil. So maybe the clutch area is binding. That's weird, I was not expecting to see flakes in there. Or we could have multiple issues, we don't know. Alright, well, that's not good. We're gonna see if we can look down the intake port here for the cylinder and see if that piston's scored up. We can also take off the pipe and do the same thing on the exhaust side. But we can get this carb out and quick take a peek before taking apart the whole top end. This is a strange issue. And like I said before, it could just be multiple issues. The engine could just be junk. We'll see. I hope not. I know parts for these are hard to find, so we're hoping we can get lucky here. That's like the easiest carb to take out. Oh, we can just let that dangle for the time being. We'll probably check that out and see if the pilot's clogged too. But we can get the reeds off now. And the manifold. What kind of reeds are in here? I'm guessing the original. Alright, taking a look at the manifold here. Looking for any cracks. Not seeing anything. That looks really good. Yeah, reeds are original. Gotta be. Ooh, I see a piece of something here. A little chip in the reed right there. I see metal here too. Uh-oh. Piston could just be wrecked in there. Reeds all look pretty good though. So we didn't have a problem with the manifold or the reeds causing it to run lean. Let's see if we can see down in there. We really don't want to have a problem with the cylinder. Oh, I see a, oh man. I think the piston's chomped up in there. It's hard to see. I see like a little broken piece. I can't really tell though. But I think that's scored a little bit. It's really hard to see from that side. I think we're gonna take the exhaust off and look through that side. Might be a little bit easier. All right, definitely see some chunks in the top end. So we're off to a bad start here. That one's not even really holding anything up. See if anything's in the pipe here. Nothing in the pipe. Alright, looking up through there. Oh yeah, piston scored. Yeah, you can see the lines on the piston there. So that piston is tight in the cylinder. That might be why it's hard to kick over. Huh. Yeah, it's definitely scored in there. So it looks like the top end's coming off. Alright, coolant's kind of coming out weird. I wonder if that water pump impeller is bad in there. Maybe that's why the top end got hot. We're gonna check that out. Is it held on by another bolt? I think it's on there. I don't think this has ever been off. Why does that not want to come off of here? I want to break the water pump. Maybe not. There we go. Oh, that's turning. You can hear the piston going up and down in there. So impeller looks good. That was not the problem. All right, we're gonna try to get this top end off of here. They're on there pretty good. Here's the power valve cover. Why are those so tight? Holy cow. That one didn't work. It's too stripped out. That one worked. That one worked. They're pretty stripped out though. Let's see if I can make this one work here. Alright, big flathead. There we go. Oh, we can get the cover off. All these are free. See if these power valves were connected. Oh yeah. It looks to be working. Right, those look pretty good. We're gonna disconnect that. Wreck anything here. All right, let's get this head off of here. Oh man, those are torqued down pretty good. Wow. All right, here we go. I'm curious to see what this looks like underneath here. Oh boy, let's see. Oh, the piston doesn't look bad. There is a little nick right there on the head, but head is definitely salvageable. Awesome. We'll see about the cylinder here. O-rings look good. Those weren't broken or anything. O-rings look good. Piston really doesn't look that bad from the top. But we'll see what it looks like once we get this cylinder off. Cylinder nuts coming off here. I'm hoping we get lucky and the cylinder's not scored, but I'm guessing it probably will be. It's coming. Getting stuck by the radiator hose there in the front. Alright, let's see if it'll come off now here. Oh boy, I see some chunks. Piston doesn't look that bad though. Where are the chunks from? Oh, cylinder's not horrible. Oh, the cylinder doesn't look that bad. Might just need a new sleeve in there. Or a hone. It really doesn't look that bad. We'll have to check that over. But no huge gouges out of it. That's really lucky. Take a look at the piston here. What the heck failed? That's weird. The two holes are on the side there. Never seen that before. On the piston, look at that. Interesting. And there's two more over on this side too. That's really odd. I'm not seeing any chunks of piston off here. Here's some chunks though. I don't know what that's from. Rod bearing? Possibly? Let's get those out of there. Look at that big chunk. What would that be from? What the heck? Rod bearing. There's no up and down play. Well, where did that come from then? Piston doesn't look that bad, but the rings are stuck. That's why we had low compression. Rings are completely stuck in here. Look at that. Huh. I'm not sure where that metal's from. It's gotta be rod bearing. You can see the rings are completely stuck in there. But there's two holes over on this side too. Yeah, but you can see all the chunks in there. Huh. But none of the piston's broken off, which is really weird. Maybe the power valve broke? Oh, it looks like the power valve got hit there a little bit. Right there. It's not horrible, just a little bit worn off. I wonder if that was the whole problem. Maybe the clearance wasn't there. Alright, let's try to get this piston off, take a closer look at that rod. It's gotta be the rod bearing, but there's no play up and down. Yeah, there's some chunks inside the piston too. Roller bearing, huh. Taking a closer look at the rod here. There's not that much side to side either. Zero up and down. Huh. Look at all that metal on my fingers. Obviously the bottom end has to come apart, but I don't see. Everything feels pretty tight on the rod. The bearings all look good in there. Maybe it was the crank that went. I don't know, we won't know until we start digging into it. So I think what we're gonna do is get the engine out of the frame, start tearing this thing down, and we'll see what failed here. nut washer. And get this sprocket off of here. Let that chain dangle. I've got the swing arm bolt here that has to come off, engine mount here and there, and then one bolt underneath here. Arm bolt coming out. Thing's pretty white. Alright, checking over the frame. Looking for any cracks here. Everything looks really good. Alright, engine is on the bench. Let's start tearing into it. Alright, we're going to take off the clutch cover here. And remember, the oil looked pretty flaky with metal shavings, so we're hoping the clutch is still fine. Let's see what's underneath here. I'm very curious to see. Updated Allen bolts for the cover. I think that's all of them right there. There we go. Got some oil leaking out. Alright, governor gear looks good. Water pump gear looks good. So far that looks good. I'm not seeing anything wrong with the clutch basket. So far so good. Ah, look at that. I didn't even see that. I was about to take the clutch off, but look at the crank seal. Completely out. Oh. Wow. No wonder it was smoking. So I think that was the failure point right there. We'll see if the left side crank seal's out too. But that was the cause of the excessive smoking that the seller was talking about. Just backed right out. Yeah, it must have been smoking a ton, because that seal is just completely out. Yeah, I don't think this has ever been apart, unless I put a new washer on here. But look at how that's crimped over. There's no hammer marks on there at all. Because to fold that piece down right there to get that nut off, you'd have to hammer it like I'm going to do right now. like that. You got your clutch rod here. Both ends look to be the same. Should come off. Just like that. Bearing and bushing underneath there. Everything looks good so far. Alright, I don't see where the metal was coming from. You know what? It must have been coming from over in here, because that could leak through then to here. Some metal shavings were probably coming through the crankcase area, because that seal's gone, through the bearing there, down into here. Alright, we can get the Kickstarter out. Nothing looks broken there. There's that nut washer. So the smaller one goes on first, beveled edge out, and then you've got the extended part of that gear going towards the back of the engine. And here is the crank seal. You can see just completely backed out. So I believe, oh wow. Bunch of metal right here. What the heck is that from? Oh, it looks like the main bearing failed. The main crank bearing. Wow. I don't think I've ever seen that fail before the rod bearing. Look at that. That's where the metal's coming from. Holy cow. No wonder it was hard to kick over too. Look right in here. This piece went right in there. So we found our problem. Main crank bearing. So that must have just pushed out that seal. Wow. And look at that, that's not even holding anything in. That should be straight like that. And it just pushed that right out with a lot of force. That is absolutely crazy. Yeah, never seen the main crank bearing go like that. Huh. So I wonder what happened first. Was it the seal that went out or the main crank bearing? Must have been the crank bearing. Oh, look at that. Whole bearing just came out of there. So that piece right there failed. Look at that, just all warped. Wow. That is crazy. Alright, shift shaft coming out. No issues with that at all. That looks good. So this side is done. I think everything's off of it that needs to be off of it to split the case. Let's head over to the stator side and see if that crank seal failed as well. Too bad. And there's a washer. Alright, that came right off. Flywheel doesn't look too bad. Flywheel off to the side. Alright, now the stator, those bolts look a little worn out. Let's see if we can get those off. Put this up against here. Oh boy, it's not looking good. That one came. This one's just completely rusted in. Let's see if we can get those to free up, luckily. Yeah, that crank seal was failing too. Stator looks pretty good. See the lip, and you can see oil coming through there. Oil gas mix starting to come through that shaft there. See how wet it is around there? So that was about to fail too. I'm guessing that was leaking a little bit, causing this machine to run lean. So that might be the main culprit right there. Seals were shot. So I think the left hand crank seal was allowing air in, causing this machine to run lean. Then the bearings went, and then it just kind of grenaded the whole thing. All right, now we can get this case split. Probably replace it anyway, because this thing hasn't been rebuilt ever. Got the case splitter out. Let's see if it'll come apart here. I think we can get this off now. Let's see. Wants to come. There we go. Crank bearing shot. Feels pretty good. Yeah, you can see it almost looks like water got in there. Really rusty. Alright, here's the crank. All the gears look really good there. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything wrong with the transmission. Get this crank to come out. Curious to see what that bearing looks like. Oh, that's pretty rough in there. rod bearing feels pretty good. That's pretty crazy. Crank looks nice and straight. You can see it got spun here. And that piece got between the crank and the case half here. Oh, here, probably this piece right here. A couple big chunks here. Look at all those metal flakes. So yeah, the metal we were seeing in the transmission area were the flakes from the case coming through the seal, another big chunk, through the seal there, through that bearing. Luckily, the case isn't cracked. Nothing is damaged too much. And I think for the crank we can get away with just a rod and a rod bearing. Honestly, probably just a rod bearing. That is toast. Yeah, it gets locked up there too. So that was the main problem. Alright, so looking at the cylinder a little closer, there's only one scratch on it right there that you can get your fingernail in. So right there, you can hear it. We need to have this re-sleeved because I don't think that's going to hone out. But that's the only deep scratch in the whole cylinder. So I'm guessing what happened was that crank bearing failed, a piece of that metal came up, got lodged between the piston, probably right there, honestly. Looks like it got melted into the piston, was going up and down. Yep, that's where it is too. It's right there, that's where that scratch is. Yep, that piece got lodged into the piston from the crank bearing and was going up and down and scratching that cylinder. Unfortunately, it made a big enough scratch to where we need to do something with the cylinder. The piston is junk as well. So far, we need a new crank bearing, a new piston, a gasket kit, and a new sleeve for the cylinder. Let's take a quick look at the power valves, because we saw that one was scratched a little bit. So let's open this up, take a peek. Looks like there's an Allen bolt down there. Alright, and this whole thing should pull out of here. That to crack loose. All the way through. Now we should be able to, you can see these separating actually right there, see that crack? Those separate in both directions here. There we go. There's one half of the power valve. And the other half you can just push through. And that little pin came out. And there's the other half, and these go like that and connect in there, and then the bolt, Allen bolt, holds those together. So that looks pretty good. Here's where it was wearing off. It doesn't even look like it's, no. Doesn't even look like a wear mark. So there's no, can't catch my fingernail on it. So I don't think that was hitting the piston though. But we'll get a rebuild kit for that. It needs new seals. But overall, cylinder doesn't look too bad. Well, unfortunately, this one's gonna need quite a bit of work, but it definitely could have been worse. So I'm thankful that we only need a couple things that shouldn't be too expensive. As long as we can get those parts, we should be fine. But I was kind of expecting this thing to only need like a piston going into this. That's why I paid $900 for it. But yeah, I obviously overpaid for a blown up 1989 Yamaha YZ250. But you know, what can you do? The seller said a bunch of other guys were interested, so kind of had to pay that price. I drove down there 2 hours and 15 minutes and 2 hours and 15 minutes back, so I wasn't leaving without the bike. So yeah, I overpaid a little bit, but I think once we get done, it'll be a really, really nice bike. The rest of the frame, bike, plastics, tires are all perfect. So as long as we can get this engine in good running condition, I think this bike can be worth quite a bit. I've never ridden or owned a 1989 Yamaha YZ250, so I thought it would be kind of a cool bike to own and ride for the first time. So hopefully next video we can get this thing all back together and take it for the first ride. Hopefully you guys enjoyed picking this thing up for $900, diagnosing it, tearing it down, and finding out what caused this bike to fail. Always interesting tearing into these old bikes. You never know what you're gonna find. And obviously it's always a risk going into it, but you know, definitely a learning experience, and you learn a lot tearing these things down. So it's not always a lose-lose. So thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing. Stay tuned for next video, and until next time, we are out.